Japanese psychiatrist Miyamoto Kamiya writes it in one clean line. There is no love bigger than giving someone a reason to live. If that line hits a nerve, it should. When meaning fades, everything gets heavier. If you've been feeling that quiet emptiness, you know it. Your day still happens. You get up. You handle what's in front of you. You reply to people. You do what you're supposed to do. Then the day ends, and it still feels thin. Some days it's sadness. Other days it's numbness. Sometimes the weirdest part is how your mind stays busy, while something inside feels unplugged. From the outside, everything can look fine. You might have a job, a routine, friends, goals, and you still run into that private question you almost never say out loud. What is the point of my day? That's where this Japanese idea helps, because it was built for ordinary life, the kind with errands, setbacks, and tired mornings. Japan has a word for the thing that makes life feel worth living: Ikigai. In everyday Japanese, it can mean something worth living for, and also the sense of joy or drive that comes from it. It can sit inside big things, and it can sit inside small things. It might be a person you love, a craft you're learning, or a role you carry with pride. In this video, we are going to break down Ikigai, where the word comes from, how the internet reshaped it, and a simple way to practice it so your days start feeling worth living again. Start with the word itself, because the language tells you what the idea cares about. Ikigai is written with two parts. The first part, iki, comes from life, or to live. The second part comes from kai, a word for worth and value, the sense that something is worth doing. When Japanese words combine, the sound at the start of the second part often gets voiced. Linguists call this sequential voicing, or rendaku. That's why kai often becomes gai in compounds, and you hear ikigai. Put it together, and ikigai points to the worth of living, and also the thing that gives you that worth. Japanese dictionaries also show that the word has carried these meanings for a long time, including the idea of life's value and the feeling of having something to live for. Now bring it down to your life. Ikigai can be a big mission for some people, but for most people, it works better as a daily reason. It's the thing that makes you want tomorrow to arrive. When meaning feels missing, the mind hunts for a grand answer that explains everything. Ikigai aims lower, in a good way. It asks a smaller question you can actually answer. What made today feel worth it? You've probably seen the Ikigai diagram online. The 4 circles about love, skill, what the world needs, and what pays. It spreads fast because it looks clean. It also turns meaning into a checklist. But the diagram is widely discussed as a modern overlay rather than a traditional Japanese model. Even the person who popularized that Venn diagram has described it as a synthesis that got adopted and debated. The Economist has also pointed out how Japanese words get repurposed abroad to give an aura of ancient wisdom to regular self-help advice. Here's what can happen when you take the diagram too seriously. Meaning starts feeling like a test. Unpaid joys start looking fake. You keep forcing one perfect overlap so you can finally relax. That pressure backfires, because plenty of real Ikigai has nothing to do with money. Japan's government site describes Ikigai as a broad concept that can come from people, such as children or friends, and also from activities including work and hobbies. In the same piece, A writer describes asking older adults in Ogimi village in Okinawa what their Ikigai was, and they answered with simple, specific things, such as friends, gardening, and art. That's the tone, clear, concrete, with no performance. So keep the diagram in its place. If it helps you think about career choices, fine, but keep it out of the job of deciding whether your life has meaning. Let's make this real, because ideas only go so far when you're lying in bed at midnight with that empty feeling. Ikigai usually doesn't arrive as one big revelation. For most people, it builds through contact. You do something that feels real, then you come back to it often enough that it becomes part of your week. So start tonight with a short replay of your day. Skip the productivity review for once. Do a meaning review. Ask where your energy came up, where you felt present, where time moved faster, and which moments left you steadier afterward. Keep it specific. Think of a conversation, a task, a place, or a small act of care. Something you can point to without giving a whole speech about it. If nothing shows up, your day probably got filled with demands. And that happens. Next, pick one small Ikigai anchor and make it repeatable. This is where people get impatient, because small steps feel too ordinary. But ordinary is where your life actually happens. So meaning has to live there. Choose one moment from your replay and give it a slot in your day. For connection, send one message a day that you actually mean. For making something, give 10 minutes to the tool, even if the result is messy. For movement, take a short walk at the same time each day, long enough to feel your body come back online. One reason this works is that Ikigai is often tied to activities that feel chosen and self-directed, which changes how they affect your mood and energy. Now add the monk move, the part that keeps you steady when motivation disappears. When the emptiness shows up, treat it as weather, just something passing through. Give yourself a second to notice what happened right before it. Maybe it was social comparison, maybe boredom, maybe fatigue, maybe a hard conversation you avoided, maybe too much screen time and not enough real contact. You're collecting data. Leave verdicts out of it. This matters because research on Ikigai often links having a sense of Ikigai with better well-being outcomes in older adults, including a lower risk of incident functional disability. Long-term studies have also linked lower Ikigai to higher mortality risk in Japan, with authors discussing links to behavior, stress, and health over time. You don't need a superstition here, just a reminder that meaning shapes how people live, and how people live adds up. To keep this from fading, build two versions of your Ikigai practice. One is a baseline that happens even on messy days. The other is a fuller session for the days when you've got time and energy. The baseline keeps the thread alive. It might be 5 or 10 minutes, one paragraph, one short walk, one honest message, one small rep. The full version is where you go deeper. A longer practice, a longer conversation, a bigger project session. That structure saves you from restarting at zero, which is one of the fastest ways to lose hope. Quick story to make it feel real. Picture two people with the same stress and the same calendar. The first person waits for meaning to arrive as a big event, a new job, a breakthrough, a perfect partner. They keep postponing the small things that used to make them feel alive, because those things rarely look impressive on paper. Weeks pass, then months pass. The emptiness stays, because their days never contain anything that feeds worth back into life. The second person chooses one small anchor and protects it. A craft, a relationship, a duty done with care, something they return to even when the day is messy. Nothing about it looks dramatic from the outside, but inside it changes everything. Because their week keeps proving a simple truth. Life has worth right now. That's the heart of Ikigai. Meaning comes back when you build it. Ikigai is the worth of living, and also the thing that gives you that worth. It can live in work, sure. It can also live in people, hobbies, and small daily responsibilities you take seriously. Meaning can be quiet, and still be real. End your day with one honest question. What made today feel worth living? Then protect a small piece of that, and bring it back tomorrow. That's how meaning stops feeling mysterious and starts feeling like something you can practice. As always, thank you for watching.